focus of the research paper is not on the issue in the sense of, I'm going to talk all about minorities, how they've been treated in society. No. Your focus is on the literary works or work to discuss how that work deals with the issue. So that you might start off this way. Let's say you're dealing with women as minorities and unfair treatment in society. Okay, that's what you've chosen to go with. I've seen a number of those outlines, so that's fresh in my head. Your opening might start with some sort of historical perspective. That in the United States and elsewhere around the world, women have historically been regarded as a minority and have been subjugated to repression in a number of ways. In the United States, for instance, women were not granted the right to vote until the 20th century. Likewise, in other places, women are still regarded as secondary citizens who cannot have their own bank accounts, have not the right to work. And of course, in business, we still have the glass ceiling, in which women are kept from rising to the top of any position. Okay, there you go. You've set the historical precedent. That's all you need to do. This repression of women is not of recent aging. In the ancient Greek text, Antigone, in the 19th century short story, Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin, and in the 20th century poem, Barbie Doll by Marge Piercy, women are presented as repressed individuals whose rights to freedom are very limited by men and by society. There you go. There's your thesis. There's your opening. The rest of the essay will be to discuss those three works of literature and how Antigone shows repression of women, how Story of an Hour shows repression of women, how Barbie Doll shows repression of women. You probably want to include the thesis, something like that they're forced to conform to what society expects, something like that. Stuck in there too, that opening. There you go. Do not spend lengthy paragraphs talking about the women's rights movement in the 1960s and 70s. That has nothing to do with your paper. Because your focus is on 1, 2, or 3 works of literature, right? In which those works have addressed the issue. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So can it kind of be looked at like for each, like if you pick Story of an Hour, if you only pick 2 things to write about, it's basically 1,000 word essay over.
So long as they're connected, I mean, yeah, there has to be a sense of transition connection to it. I mean, are you talking about like in Story of an Hour? Do you want to talk about repression of women, or which of the topic you're looking at? The idea about minorities and women and how they've been treated.
So it could be like that, but if you pick 3, it'd just be shorter.
Well, it could be. I mean, I just know that one of the topics said you can choose 1 up to 3, so I just chose 3 off the top of my head. But yeah, that something like that. I mean, you're writing a 2,000-word paper over the works of literature or work of literature in regard to this issue, whatever the topic is. That's what you're doing. You're not writing about the issue. Don't give me this historical study about women and society. Don't need it, don't want it. It's not what you're supposed to be doing. It tells you in the handout, this is a literary research paper focusing on a work of literature or works of literature. It's not a historical coverage. You can write a history paper later. So you need to make certain that you have set it up right. If you want to address a little bit about the historical concept about women being repressed in society and limited to the votes and stuff, okay. You may even have to use a source for that, right? In that opening. That's fine. But the rest of the essay better focus on the literature and how the literature, whichever work or works you've chosen, deals with the issue, the topic. You're not discussing the topic issue, you're discussing the literature that reflects the topic issue. There's a difference there, and I want to make sure you understand that. Again, the Purdue OWL tells you that's what you're supposed to offer a unique perspective through the types of research paper that you're doing. That's what you're going to do. And again, you can go up here to the Purdue OWL, again, the website, and look that up, or you just go to Google, put in Purdue OWL, O-W-L, meaning Online Writing Lab, and put research paper. You'll pop right up and you just click on it, it'll take you right to it. Please make certain that you are proceeding as you need to. Because if you spend a bulk of your essay, your research paper, giving a historical approach to whatever it is you're dealing with, that's not going to work for you. That's why I wanted to look at those outlines. And I did look at and offer some comments. So you had that opportunity to understand, all right, am I on the right track? That's what you need to make certain. All right, am I on the right track? And I'll try to give you some guidance to let you know that. So, Purdue Owl will help you with some. But let's talk now about how do I find sources? Because where do we find them? Well, you go to the TVCC webpage. For those online, here you go. That's what it looks like. That's our TVCC webpage, right? And the Cardettes are presenting incomprehensible. Okay. They just want it first place. You put your cursor up here on Life at TVCC and you will see a secondary menu pop up, and down here you'll see Library. You click on Library. That takes you to the LRC page. Our Learning Resource Center is what LRC stands for. In case you weren't sure. There's our Learning Resource Center. And you have a number of choices of how you want to approach this. One way to approach it is to go here to the research database and just type in what you're looking for there. Other way you can do it is to put your cursor on the tab Research Databases, and it will call up the secondary research databases. And there's a number of them there. The ones that you primarily want to focus on will probably be Bloom's Literature and the Literature Resource Center. Now sometimes this one, when you're at your home computer, it doesn't like to open automatically. It wants to go to this dial-up password, which we do not have. So you have to go here to find those. So all you have to do is go over here, and in this research database, type what you're looking for. I suggest start with the title of the work you're looking for, or the author that you have. So we've already talked about Story of an Hour. We'll go with that one. And we'll just search that. And there you go. There's a study guide for Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour. It's an ebook, which you may not want. But right down here, you will see the third one down. It says Emotions in the Story of an Hour. It's an article in the Explicator. It tells you all that detail. And it can be viewed in the Literature Resource Center. Remember I told you sometimes you can't get straight into the Resource Center? This one takes you to it. It's sort of a back door to get into it. Now, I'm already logged into the system, so I don't have to do a login. Okay. Bear with us, it has to update. If you're working from your home computer, when you typed in the research search there on the EBSCO button, it would then ask you to log in, and then it'll take you to this page. But you can click on this blue link, Literature Resource Center, and it will take you to the Gale sources. The Literature Resource Center incorporates all the Gale information, and it just takes a little while to do so. Typically, everything's running slowly today. Go back here. You'll see that here's another one. Let's see if maybe this one will go fast. I know Daniel knows. Trying to get these to operate sometimes. So do not want to block. Let me go back. Try it again. It's just running very slowly this morning. Anyway, we'll go back over here. You'll also see some that are called PDF full text. Those are there. You can also click on, in case the Literature Resource Center does not want to call up, you can just click on the title. And then maybe this one will work. Yes, I think that one's working better. Yes, okay. Sometimes you just have to try it a couple of times, depends on how they want to do it. And there is Fatal self-assertion in Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour. You click on it, there's your article. Here's your citation tools, how you're supposed to do the citation for it. You just click on it. There it is for the 8th edition. It's not double spaced, it never is. This is the barcode. Just simply copy it. Paste it, and then you have to fix it a little bit. Put your cursor at the end of each line, hit enter, end of the line, and there you go. That's exactly how it's supposed to look. That's exactly how your works cited page will look. So every time you do a source from the Literature Resource Center or any of the other ones, you simply copy it, paste it in there, and then you'll just have to put it in applicable or when you finish. You may have to do what I just did. Put your cursor at the end, hit enter, get the double spacing and the tabbing over.
What was that website called?
The Literature Resource Center?
Oh, that one?
Yeah, that's where that came from.
So when you're pasting on there, you just paste it as
Mhm.
not as plain text or anything.
Nope. We'll go to another article here and do the same thing again. No thanks, I don't want to do that. Show more results. Okay, we want to search Story of an Hour. Let's do this one. We'll just do Chopin this time. Chopin's Story. And there it is. And again, once you get into it, we'll call this up. It just takes a little while. Everything's moving slowly today for some reason. There are 14 pieces of criticism over this, or somewhere is referenced in some way. So you want the literature criticism. Again, it's just moving slowly. Sorry, this is just how things happen sometimes. And again, you'll note that some of these fit in maybe with the topic that you're looking at. This is Autonomous Female Self, The Death of Louise Millard by Cunningham. Again, autonomous means self-governing. So there you go. Again, citation tool, click here. There it is. It's set for the 8th edition. Copy it. Go in here. Paste it. But you have to fix it because it's not tabbed over. So you go to the end of the line, enter, tab. End of the line, enter, tab. End of the line, enter, tab. You go, why is that one so long? Because it's the URL. Enter, tab. Enter, tab. And there you go. And I actually have an applicable order for Coffee Cunningham. You go, that looks like, I don't like that either. I usually tell somebody, go ahead and break it someplace here, but technically you're not supposed to. That just doesn't look right to me. This is the new MLA. They went back to putting the URLs in. So you have to sort of, but luckily it's all there. And it gives you all the information, who wrote it, the article, where it was found originally, where you found it, when you found it, etc. So you don't have to worry about anything. It's all there. Again, that's through our Leader Library. This is how you find the sources. This is where you need to go. It's really that easy. You go to our Library Resource Center, our Learning Resource Center. Big EBSCO button. Type in what you're looking for. Or you can go through the other ones. And again, I want to show you this one. Close this out. Here's our home. There's our button. You can go over here to the research databases if you want to look for something special. This is the Bloom's literature. That one, if you really want to draw something from Bloom, you have to go directly to it. It does not get called up in the EBSCO post. And all you have to do is look for one. Again, just follow the tabs. You can search here. You do Kate Chopin. And there you go. Criticism. 66 articles, criticism. Many of these are about her novel, The Awakening, but there are some about Story of an Hour, and some of them are very short. They don't have much in them, but you can look for those and find those. You can also go directly for the title of the work. And there those are. Those all pop up. Some of them are not necessarily that much in this one. Again, this was a very, very short little article. Just tells you a little summary of it. I'll do just a little commentary. You can click on the criticism, and again, very brief little details here that have it. Williams doesn't have that much on Chopin. He focuses on more of the major writers. But you can still find some information this way as well. If we were going to go with Hemingway, for instance, let's go with Will's Aqua Elfman. You search it. 21 pieces. Again, some of these are fairly short, but this one talks about metaphor on those like white elephants. It's a very brief little comment. This one, conversational styles. Again, this is looking again. It's just a very brief comment. So there's a few of these here, but probably the best one. This is not bad. So, but in this one, it talks about man and girl language as a shield and a weapon. So you're talking about how they communicate, you're talking about relationships and issues. This is a good one to look at for some of the details for that sport, for that particular one. Or disappointment and the romantic illusion. Part of it. Again, so you can find them through the Literature Resource Center. Again, by going through the EBSCO host. Again, let's just take a moment to get back to it. This is how to look when you go into the library first. And you can type in here, or you can go to the more specialized research databases. That's where you need to look. Do not use any other sources, folks. That's not the requirement. It says only sources may be used from here. You go elsewhere, you do not do what you're supposed to. It means you fail to fulfill the requirements of the assignment. And I have a whole little button side that I can click for that one. So you search here. Again, as Purdue OWL's page commented, the research paper is not where you simply take large chunks from sources and stick it in and say, I agree. No, the large chunks better be your comments. And the little pieces are simply evidence that you're using to support your points. Taken from the critics, taken from the work or works. Yes, you are expected to quote the works, folks. Bring those in when you're going to provide details and examples from the work of how that work is reflecting that issue you're looking at. You're dealing with repression of women as minorities in the world, how they are, constantly being expected to fit certain images and fit certain roles. Okay, there you go. That's what you set up in your opening. Well, how does Story of an Hour show that? How does Barbie Doll? How does it do that? Discuss those. And you'll find some articles by critics who have also offered some of those points. You get to incorporate it as part of your paper, but only small parts, in which you then build off of that. That's what you need to do. This is how, they tell you. It's not one thing, it's this. Okay? So this is what if you need to go back and look at this part, again, Purdue OWL, which is owl.purdue, owl.english.purdue.edu/owl/resource. It's much easier to go to Google and put in Purdue OWL research paper. That'll come up. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're following what you're doing, looking at the work or work that you've chosen, and that you're doing this appropriately. Again, it's just what you were asked to do with the other essays, where you're told not to use outside sources. You weren't supposed to go to any place else for those. You're supposed to look at the work and analyze it, argue a point. Well, now you get to not only do that with the work, but now you can bring in a few sources to help augment your comments. But again, augmenting, not being. Just supporting your idea, not being your idea. All right? And again, you'll have it developed, you'll have it all put up, and hopefully everything will work fine as you're doing the citations, because again, it's really that easy for the Works Cited page. Just copy and paste. Now, what you would do for your citation of those, that information you've taken from Berkhoff, you would simply use the word Berkhoff in parentheses. You don't have to put page numbers. Or you put the word Cunningham in the parentheses at the end of your information you have incorporated from the article. You don't have to worry about putting a page number or anything. For your main work, though, if you're quoting from Story of an Hour, you do a quote where free, buying yourself free, right? You do that because you're focusing on that sense of freedom, maybe at that point. Well, then that'll be, for instance, Chopin and the page number, because you're using it from the textbook, and then you close the parentheses, put your period. Okay? Any questions about how to use the library resources online then? All you do is go to tvcc.edu, put the cursor on the Life at TVCC, the submenu pops up, click on Library, there you are. Research button is right there in front of you. When you have this and you type in the little button, I'll put this back over here so they can see it. Click on it, there it is. Type in what you're looking for here, or you go one of the more specialized research databases there. Hit search, off it goes. It'll call them up. Look for the articles. What you can do is fine tune it to say that you're looking for only full text articles. Because sometimes they'll just give you a little abstract and that doesn't help you any. So you want the full text articles. You might even want to click on scholarly articles, if you have that option. So when you click on that, you have limit to full text, and you can also limit it to scholarly. So that off to one side, you get to click the little boxes here. And those will give you the kind of articles that you want. Those little boxes over here. Just click, and that way you won't come up with just a little abstract or a little summary of the article, which you never can get into. But you'll actually have the full article available for you. And you'll see there are 14 of them. And many of them you'll notice are from the Literature Resource Center or other ones that you can go to. And you can look at those. So that's what you want to utilize. Any questions about this now? All right, so no questions. Good. So we're all just about hopefully in the final stages of the research paper anyway, right? Because you should be. Now, next situation. Please recognize that you do have work that we are trying to develop. Excuse me, gentlemen. So, in looking at the plays, of course, there are a number of different issues as you read through those. You've read, or are supposed to have read, 5 of the plays already. Because you're supposed to have read chapters 27 and, 30 last week? Okay. Some people have the 11th edition. It's 29 and 33 or something. It's different. That came up in my Tuesday night class because a couple of them have older books. But 27 gave you the background about drama, the details about what tragedy comedies can be, and they give you an example of each one. The chapter 30 focuses strictly on Antigone and also provides you with some critical comments about Antigone through some articles. And then you were asked to read chapter 28 over Shakespeare, where you get to read 2 of his plays. One a comedy, one a tragedy. And the comedy, Midsummer Night's Dream, has a focus in a number of ways. We talked a little bit about that. But one of the main focus points of that play is very similar to Antigone. You have a young woman who is told, this is the law and you will follow it, or you will die. That's what Antigone is told, right? This is the law. Penalty is death. Well, Hermia is told the same thing. Remember, she's brought before the Duke Theseus by her father, saying that she will not listen to me. I've chosen Demetrius to be her husband. She says no. She refuses. She wants to marry Lysander. I do not approve of Lysander. Tell her what the law says. And that's exactly what Theseus tells her. The law says your father chooses. You obey him, or you die. And he gives her another out. He goes, well, because I'm in a good mood, I'm about to be married. I'll give you another option. You can be cloistered. Go away and shut yourself away from the world for the rest of your life. You obey your father, obey the law, die or be shut away for the rest of your life. Only options. And she chooses to ignore the law, right? She and Lysander run off. They break the law. And at the end of Act 4, when everything's being resolved happily, right? But it's a comedy. And when the lovers are out there sleeping outside the edge of the wood, the bridal party shows up, right? Theseus and Hippolyta and all members of the court, including Aegis. And there they see the lovers. And Theseus says, oh, they're probably out here ready to celebrate. And Aegis goes, that's my daughter. What do you mean? Well, let's ask them. So Theseus sends somebody, why are you guys out here? Just out here to celebrate early? And Lysander tells the truth. No, we were running away to avoid the perils of Athenian law. And Aegis' response is, the law, I demand the law. Which means his daughter will be taken, Lysander will be killed, and his daughter will either be killed or sent away in prison or cloister. Tragedy is possible. But Theseus overbears Aegis' will. So he says, I overbear your will. He goes, no, we're going to ignore it. They're a happy couple. Let's all go get married. Because Demetrius has also just spoken about that time, saying, well, I thought I loved Hermia, but I don't know. I don't love her anymore. I love Helena, and that's what I want. Because he did not have the juice removed from his eyes, the way Lysander did. So the result is that they go and have 3 marriages. Theseus and Hippolyta, Lysander and Hermia, Demetrius and Helena. They all get married. Happy ending. Potential for tragedy is there. Aegis is demanding the law. And he's not backing down from it until the ruler changes his mind. Well, in Antigone, same situation, right? A young girl disobeys the law and is willing to accept the penalty of it, which is death. And she's imprisoned, shut away in a cave, right? Until the ruler changes his mind. He decides to bring her out. Well, by that time, she's committed suicide by hanging. It's too late. Tragedy. The ruler changes his mind too late. In the comedy, no, changes his mind early enough. Tragedy averted. That's how close it can come at times. Now, you have several comic moments throughout Midsummer Night's Dream. Bottom having his head changed to the head of a donkey, for instance, and all the results from that. Confusion between the lovers when Puck puts the juice of the flower in both Lysander and Demetrius' eyes, so they both fall in love with Helena. It's confusion, because that's what happens in many Shakespearean comedies. You have a sense of confusion. Quite often, this will take part away from the quote-unquote real world. Now, this confusion, everything that takes place, that's all emotional and everything's all tied up into that, is all occurring in the woods. A critic named Northrop Frye termed it the green world technique. Because quite often in Shakespeare's plays, all that confusion occurs in a wood or a forest. He frequently has his characters go into the woods. But then they have to come back to reality. They have to come back to Athens. Athens, the center of logic, reason, not emotion. The woods, all emotion. So you have the distinction there. The result is that what you wind up with is then when they go back, when the lovers are there on the edge, they're on the edge of the woods. They're not in the woods, but they're not in the city either. They're in between the two. And we wind up having instead the balance. Yes, the law says this, however. And you're able to balance the two, and that's what the Aetius does. He's not in his court. He's not in his palace to make decisions. He's out. So you can balance reason with the emotional aspects. Again, consider how Oedipus is structured. The entire play of Oedipus occurs one location in the court of the palace, right? Courtyard area. That's it. In the palace, the symbol of authority, reason. You get to change Shakespeare plays. Now, part of the situation in Hamlet is that Hamlet does not respect the court. He does not respect the king's palace. Elsinore, Claudius is now king, but notice that's where the play starts when we are introduced to these characters in Scene 2 of Act 1. We are in the courtroom of the king, his major court area, not a judicial court, but he's still making decisions. The ambassadors are there. He's about to send them off to Norway to go give Norway a warning. He's listening to people with entreaties to him. Polonius brings Laertes. Laertes wants to go back to college. He has to have the king's approval before he can leave. That's all taking place there. A center of reason, expectations, and judicial decisions, if you will. And Hamlet is going, this is a horrible place now. It's not the way it was when my father was in charge. He says that it's an unweeded garden. His first major soliloquy in Act 1. He talks about the whole world has become that. An unweeded garden. Things rank and gross possess it merely. Of course, the most rank and gross thing he can think of is his uncle. He's not happy in this world. Now, in Hamlet, we do not have a forest per se, but we still have the green world, if you will, technique that some will want to argue. Hamlet acts or becomes insane. The connection to reality, to reason, is suspended. That's that same technique. It's suspended. And he no longer has his thoughts in that way. As you go through the play, and hopefully some of you have looked up at Blackboard. This one I cleared out earlier. When you have looked at Blackboard, I hope, you'll notice that I have posted some lecture notes. They should be open for you now. They should have actually been open for some time. But they're up there. Okay. So these on the handouts, you'll see several of them are still there, but you'll see that there are some lecture notes over Hamlet that are posted. Some of the ones I typed up, and some you will see that it talks about from Samuel Taylor Coleridge's lecture over Shakespeare. Coleridge, renowned romantic poet, later in his career did more lecturing than writing. So I put that little note here. Spellings are Coleridge's. So when he spells Shakespeare with only an E, no A, that's his choice. I didn't do it. Okay? Not mine. Okay? I didn't do it. But in the notes that I have included, I put up here about this world. There's a comment I was just making. The changing world, the aspects that take place. Says that this is the flux of the world as he observes. That's how he sees the world as being. Why we go from place to place in the play. I try to argue that Shakespeare's not worried about time, place, action, those classical unities, because he sees a world that is in flux, a world that's constantly changing, going from one aspect to another. This play is written late in the reign of Elizabeth. And already the government is trying to figure out to whom they turn next. Because Elizabeth has no children. She's now advanced in years, and when they know they're not having any children with her, so to whom will the country turn as the ruler? There's a fluctuation here. And so this play, written in advance of the death of Elizabeth, though, addresses that. What happens if the wrong person becomes king? And so you have Hamlet, this perfect world that he's always known, family intact, follows the ruler's oath. He does not like nor respect his uncle, and he has to acknowledge that his world has changed and is changing. He rails against those. Some will focus on Hamlet in his youth, as he must face a world without his father, right? As I put a demarcation of being an adult, you move away from your parents. You're suddenly taking on the responsibility of adulthood. Everything's now up to you. You don't get to go running home to mommy and crying. But Hamlet's not youth. As we find out in Act 5, when the clown, as your book calls, sometimes you'll see it called the gravedigger. The gravedigger is playing verbally with Hamlet. They're sparring verbally. Hamlet has done that to other people in the play, where he makes them look foolish. Well, now he gets it back from a simple rustic, one of those lower class people who's making all these comments and making the nobleman who's university educated look a little silly. Well, that gravedigger is asked, how long have you been a gravedigger? He goes, ever since Fortinbras lost to King Hamlet. King Hamlet took Norway. How long that was? Ever since the day Prince Hamlet was born. And then later he makes a comment that he has been sexton for 30 years. Now that raises a point, because gravedigger and sexton are not necessarily exactly the same. Sexton's a much higher ranking. When you think of sexton, that's sort of the lead guy, right? So he may have been apprentice first as a gravedigger, because that's probably how that'd be his job. He's learning first. So he may have been a gravedigger for longer than 30 years. He's only been sexton for 30. So Hamlet's at least 30. Could be older. This is not a youth, folks. This is not a teenager trying to deal with issues. This is what we would call an adult in a situation where he should know how to deal with his problems. But we get this idea of him being young because he's always called the Prince of Denmark, right? He's presented in that way. And that, as it says, the difficulty of reality from illusion. What we have in Midsummer Night's Dream, what's real and what's not. When they're in the woods, they're not quite sure what's going on. When Helena is suddenly the object of the desires of both Lysander and Demetrius, she goes, this can't be real. And she blames Hermia. She thinks Hermia's put them up to it to make fun of her. And they get into a catfight. And at the end of it, end of Act 4, the comment is, we don't know what's real and what may have been a dream. It's been a most strange situation. What's real and what is a dream? And Demetrius, as it says, still doesn't have the juice taken out of his eyes. He's still proclaiming his love for Helena. But is it real? Or is it only the effect of that potion? Helena doesn't care. She's getting the man she wants, and she's willing to take it. Well, we have this reality, illusion, what's real, what's not in the play as well. As I think I've made a comment before. People are still writing articles 500 years after this play. Is Hamlet crazy? Some argue yes, some argue no, some say not really, but maybe. They say he's not for a while, then he goes over the edge, and then he comes back. They're still writing those, trying to support their argument. The first critical essays really over Hamlet about 1700, about 100 years or so after the play. So we've had 300 plus years of critical study of play. And they're still looking at it, trying to determine that. We have this issue. It's a major issue throughout. What's real, what's not? Does he ever really love Ophelia? Well, Act 5, when he jumps into the grave to fight with Laertes over the body, he proclaims he did that. In case you guys do not remember that part of the play, I know you're all going, "Oh no, we remember. We have it all down." This is when he literally they do jump into the grave together, and Hamlet proclaims this about this is page 1758 in the book of Cashwell, line 221. "I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers could not, with all their quantity of love, make up my sum." Well, the last time he talked to her, he told her, "Get thee to a nunnery," which has several connotations. One, of course, being go to a cloister, lock yourself away from the world, or what Hermia was told in her play. Lock yourself away because this world is such a rotten world. Remember, he's talking about how bad the world is. It's such a rotten place. A sweet little thing like you is bound to be contaminated soon, so you just need to get away from it. Or, another meaning. In 1534, Henry VIII had separated the Church of England from the Catholic Church. And all the Catholics were told either convert, give up your allegiance to the Catholic Church, or leave. Most of them left, leaving behind the convents and monasteries, empty. When this play is written, 60 plus years later, by that time many of those convents and monasteries, big buildings with individual rooms with beds in each one for each of the previous inhabitants, has become houses of ill repute, if you will. Especially those around the larger cities, because many of the convents and monasteries were built outside the city walls. And so, when a young man in Shakespeare's time met with his buddy and said, "What do we want to go do tonight?" and one of them said, "Hey, let's go visit the nuns," he was not talking about going to the church and praying. He was talking, let's go down to the local red light district and pay a couple of prostitutes. When Hamlet tells Ophelia, "Get thee to a nunnery," there's that implication. The audience would have known what was going on. Then he's telling, listen, the world is such a contaminated place, you're going to be contaminated by it, you might as well just give in now. Go ahead and join the ladies of the evening, because that's all you're going to be anyway. Not a nice thing to say to a young girl. And we know she's young, because Polonius has not tried to arrange a marriage for her. He doesn't want her thinking about marriage yet. So she's probably the same age as we can think of as Juliet, 14 or so. She's clearly probably under the age of 15. And of course we know that Hamlet is 30 or so. And he tells that girl this. Well, that's the last time he really talked to her. And now he's jumping in the grave saying, "I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers could not have loved her as much as I do." Well, that's not why he seemed to treat her the way the previous time he ran into her. So what we wind up with is what's real and what's not. Did he love her? He says he did. But look at how he treats her. What's real about it? The consequence is that trying to distinguish what is real and what is false. He looks at the ghost, sees his father. Right? The other people say, hey, it looks like, that's what Horatio says when he's called out there to look at it, right? Cardinal Francisco called him out there and say, look, and he goes, looks like King Hamlet to me. And they go and tell Hamlet. But he raises the question himself, Hamlet does. Is that really the spirit of my father telling me to avenge his murder? Or is this some demon from hell sent to condemn my soul? He raises the point. He sees his friends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern as traitors. Right? They're working for Claudius, so you're against me. and he arranges for them to die. But are they really traitors? They're contacted by Claudius with the detail that Hamlet's been acting strangely. We'd like you, maybe if you talk with him, he'll confide in you. That's why they show up. Ophelia is regarded by Hamlet, and she becomes the bait in Act 3. Right? That's why he talks to her and tells her to get to a nunnery. Polonius has told her earlier not to have anything to do with Hamlet. So she has. She's rejected. She's saying everything back. Well, now Polonius thinks, well, that's what drove him mad. I'm at the root of it. So they decided, well, let's send her out there. While he's walking around, let her walk up to him. Maybe that'll bring him to his senses. Let's see how it is. And at first he talks to her, Hamlet does, to Ophelia, until he realizes who sent you here. She goes, no one. No, I'm your mom. He goes, I know better. They sent you. You're being used. And you're willing to be used. So clearly then you are not with me, you are against me. And he treats her harshly after that. These points to consider when you look at what real and what not. Ophelia is told maybe this will help Hamlet. That's what she's trying to do. She makes a comment about, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown, as he walks away after he said all these things to her. Which is a little foreshadowing because she's going to go crazy herself here in a little bit. But you have all this taking place within the play. These are details to look at and think about. Because the play requires you to look, why is he doing this? How is he trying to do this? What's the point of all of this? How is he trying to get this across to us? And the result is that these issues are not resolved until, of course, the end of the play. When, of course, everybody dies. Because this is the tragedy. There's no happy ending. There's no stopping of the play where the leader says, okay, all right, it's okay. We're going to forgive everything. Let's just forget it. Let's go off and let's all be happy. The way Theseus does in Midsummer Night's Dream. Well, in this case, they all die. Claudius keeps trying to kill Hamlet. Comes up with a plan. Get Laertes back because he's already back. Because he's found out his father's been killed by Hamlet. And he wants revenge. Claudius has a plan. Do it with Hamlet. We'll poison the tip of your sword so you just have to touch him, he'll die. And then just in case that doesn't work, Claudius has a backup plan. He poisons a cup of wine that he plans to give to Hamlet to drink. And during the course of the duel that does happen, Laertes cannot break through Hamlet's defense. Hamlet's actually a better swordsman than Laertes. So they take a little break, and Claudius gives him wine, and Hamlet says, no, I'm not thirsty, I'm fine. He puts it down. Gertrude picks it up. Offers a toast to her sons for doing so well. And drinks the wine, and Claudius is left going, no, you shouldn't have done that. Because now she's going to die. He didn't mean for her to die, but it happened anyway. After that, of course, Laertes breaks the rules. He takes his sword and slashes Hamlet's arm while they're on a break, while they're on timeout. He does that. For a football metaphor comparison, it'd be as if, while they're, on timeout, one of these commercial timeouts that occurs more and more often, football games are on a break there, J.J. Watt decides to sack Tom Brady. Not supposed to do that, right? So Hamlet gets hit with the poisoned sword, and it makes him a little irritated, so this time he doesn't take it easy on Laertes, knocks the sword out of his hand, picks that one up, gives his sword to Laertes, and promptly stabs Laertes, who's now going to die from a poisoned sword. Nothing good happens. Nobody stops any of this. It just keeps happening. Claudius doesn't stop Gertrude from drinking the poisoned wine, although he knows it's poison. Because if he says, don't drink that, it's poison, he'll be revealing to everybody, well, how do you know it's poison? Good guess. No. Because I did it. Well, why would you poison wine? Wanted Hamlet to drink it. You don't have anybody stopping any of this. There's no way of reaching a happy ending. It's not going to occur. Polonius is dead. Ophelia is dead. Laertes is set on revenge. Claudius is determined to get rid of Hamlet. Hamlet wants to get rid of Claudius, and Gertrude gets caught up in all of it. That's going to happen. It has to happen. It will happen. They die. Nobody can come in and say, "Uh-oh, stop, we're okay." It's not like Pyramus and Thisbe, the play at the end of the play within the play of Midsummer Night's Dream, where as Pyramus, played by Bottom, dies, he probably pops and says, "It's okay, I'm not really dead. We can do something else for you if you want us to." No, when Ophelia dies, she's dead. When Hamlet stabs Polonius through the curtain and the body falls down, Polonius is not going to pop up and say, "I'm okay, he'll be all right." No, he's dead. It's what's going to occur. There's no happy ending. Shakespeare looks at relationships, situations. Bad things can happen. It will occur. The comments that are made further by, in this case, Coleridge, talks about the imaginative power and the overbalancing that activity of Hamlet's mind, which unseated from his healthy relation is constantly occupied with the world within, abstracted from the world without. This idea that he's so caught up in trying to figure things out within that he's not really focused on the outside, the reality, if you will. And again, he makes this comment here, his soliloquy that begins, "Oh, that this too solid flesh will melt," springs from the craving after the indefinite, for that which is not. And that's part of what we see. He wants something that cannot be anymore. Says he mistakes that the seeing is changed and the breaking of them, delays action till action is of no use, and dies the victim of mere circumstance and accident. But you may want to look at that. Is he really the victim of accident, circumstance, or does he bring it on himself? Is it his situation? If so, does he deserve our respect and our consideration? Should we respect Hamlet? Should we give him some pity, some sympathy, or not? Well, these are issues. In fact, that's one of the questions you get to choose from for your last essay over drama. That essay, also this is all posted online, is not due until April 28th, which is a Friday. It's to be turned into Blackboard. Seen several of these. Okay. I think there's enough for everybody on your row and on that other row back there. The first part, of course, is similar to every other part where it tells you what you're supposed to do, what's expected of standards here. In fact, I can call this up. Exit preview. Go to the essay assignment. And I'll call this up. Did you give much of Mr. Johnson this one return? Again, same aspect of every one. I use the same one. I did change it to dramas. Did the same short stories of flow poems. Okay. All right. Again, for your writing, you have to have your introduction with a solid thesis, good supportive paragraphs to build the essay with evidence utilized, and an analytical discussion. Same things you see every time on all the essays. Same thing here about the formatting. You're going to utilize MLA format, which, folks, means, yes, you have to double space. You have to tab for paragraphs. You use one of those fonts, nothing else. If you go with Times New Roman, you can go down as small as 10, but usually 12 is preferable. Calibri, it's set at 11. That's why, because 10 to 12 is standard font, and so it's set in the middle. You, of course, are going to avoid any references to I Jews, and we will see this. No, we will not. Do not follow those. The essay is your own analysis. Folks, if anything shows up as having been taken from any source, you're getting the F all the way through. Because you're told, don't use outside sources. It is your argument about the play or play, well, in this case, play. That's all I need. That's all I want. This is not the research paper. There's no author biography. Don't need it. Unless you can somehow make that pertinent to the argument, which you probably will not be able to. Okay? Plagiarism will not be accepted. That means if you have utilized a source someplace and you did not credit that source at all, that's called plagiarism. Sorry, folks. That's the zero column. Not the F, the zero column. The play will be recited on your works cited page. I put a works cited page just in case you make a reference to two plays where I was just talking about Midsummer Night's Dream, and this one, Hermia does this, but in Hamlet we see this. Okay. You're trying to draw something from one of the other plays, just to point to make like that. Then you have to cite both plays. And again, you're going to cite it right. You'll put Sophocles, period, italicized, Antigone, period, the Norton Introduction to Literature, comma, 13th edition, period, or 12th edition, excuse me, 12th edition, period, edited Kelly J. Mays, period, all of you, which you've seen. I actually gave you examples of that up at on the example essays and everything. So you could have simply copy and pasted everything in there and just changed the name of the author and the work. That's all you had to do in the pasting. But anyway, if you have any questions, you can always ask. So what you're going to do, you're going to select one of the topics that are on the second page. It says 700 to 800 words or so, which that's a suggested length, because everybody always says, well, how long does that have to be? Which I always know what that means. How short can I make it? Okay, I know that. So I give you that one. So that you can do an adequate job in that one. You may need more to really get your point developed. You have to use correct grammar, mechanics, or sound right that relies on your ability to interpret and explain the selected work. Use specific reference to the work. Yes, you will need some evidence from the work to support the points you're making. You will be quoting them. And when you quote a play, it's like quoting a poem. If you're going to quote something that goes more than 3 lines, you tab it over twice and you block it. I just showed you an example in my little notes. I quote the speech. Oh, look, it was tabbed over, right? Twice. Again, questions are phrased on the back here, and sort of yes/no choices. You will support the position you explain that. You're not just going to say yes to it and leave it at that. No, you're going to have to explain it. Argue why your response is valid, and it's due April 28th. That didn't show up on this one for some reason. There it is. It's April 28th at Blackboard. And these topics are very straightforward. They're just a series of questions. I'll load this just a little bit so you can get all of them on there. Take it way down. That's too small. Well, you can see that well. First one, is Antigone right to behave as she does? Or is Creon justify his decision? Take one side of the conflict between the two characters, support why one is right. You'll use the play, you'll go through the details of the play, and you'll discuss it. And you will support that Antigone's right, no Creon's right, whichever one you go with. And no, you cannot say, well, Antigone's right, and so is Creon. No, it says, take one side of the conflict. You're either for Antigone or you're for Creon. You don't get to vote twice. Does Oedipus deserve to be banished? Is he right or is he right? Say the truth. Is he merely a victim of fate who cannot avoid what happens to him? And if so, then is he really guilty of anything? How can you be guilty if you're fated? You have to explain why for these points. The third one is about a play we have not discussed yet. It comes up in a couple of weeks. The last play we talked about is called Death of a Salesman. So yes, Willy Loman dies, okay? It's not a spoiler here, folks. Willy Loman dies, period. He is the salesman. But the question is his final act, his death, really beneficial to the family? Does he deserve our sympathy, our pity? Or has he brought to himself the entire situation? Number 4 asks, is Hamlet justified for his treatment of the other characters, such as his mother, Polonius, Ophelia, some other characters if you want to, but those are the three typically are discussed. Is he justified the way he treats her? Remember what I just told you about how he treats Ophelia? Well, he told her. Number 5 is about the importance of being earnest. Play that was part of chapter 27, so you've already read it, supposedly. We will talk about it next week. But in this play, Lady Bracknell makes this remark. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. So is she right? Use the play to argue she's right. And you can extend it to our own situation currently. This is simply an age of surfaces also. Number 6 and 7 both concern Midsummer Night's Dream. Question is, are Hermia and Lysander right to ignore the law and choose love over the law? I was discussing that earlier. So you get to explain why. Yes, ignore the law. Yes, choose love. Or no. Whichever we go for. And number 7, this is one of the major issues quite often looked at in this play. The way Helena pursues Demetrius. You know, one part, while they're going through the woods, he says, leave me alone, quit following me. And she says, I can't help it, you're like a magnet. You just draw me to you. And he goes, you know, get this through your head. I do not love you. I cannot love you. Get that through your head, okay? Leave me alone. And she goes, it's okay. The more you say you do not love me, the more I love you. Say it again. I'll fall in love more with you. He goes, yeah, listen, you know, get out of here. She goes, that's okay. Use me like your spaniel. It is best. There's nothing better than for me to be used the way you use your dog. Right, ladies? That's what you want to say to that special guy in your life. Strike me, spur me, neglect me. Only let me be close to you because that's all I need. Beat me. I'll be happy. Well, is she right to act that way? And is his regard or lack of regard acceptable? Can we understand why he treats her the way he does? And at the end of Act 4, though, as I mentioned earlier, they go off and are married. I tell you, they don't take the love juice out of Demetrius' eyes. The question is, should these two be together? Does their marriage represent the true qualities of love? Is there what all goes on elsewhere? You get to explain that. And then your last question that you may choose is the one I just broached. Is Hamlet a person who deserves respect? Why or why not? Again, folks, what these topics, of which you will choose one, require is that you know a play very well. You have to have read at least one of the plays and know it really well. And no, folks, Spark Notes and Schmoop and all the rest of them won't help you that much because you have to quote from the play to support your point, which means you better go through that book and find some quotes. And better be your thoughts, because if anything even sounds as if it comes from Spark Notes or Schmoop or anything like that, then you violated the rules that are established on the first part of this handout, right? So don't do that. Don't worry about those. You have your research paper that you're working on. You're going to get those taken care of. You're going to have all those finished up for us by next week on Thursday. And then you have this essay not due until Friday the 28th. And then the final schedule is out. It's just technically not published fully. You just have to know how to look for it. It's in our Vice President of Instructions webpage. And it shows you that as for, you know, as I told you guys, it always is the same way. The 925 classes, Tuesday, Thursday, have their final on the first day of finals. That's when your final is. It's May 2nd, 925. All right? So, any questions at this time regarding this assignment, which is up at Blackboard in case you didn't get a copy, and it's also, of course, up at, well, it's just up at Blackboard. Let's say it's up at Canvas, but you guys don't have access to Canvas yet, so forget that. I've been working on Canvas trying to get everything ready. We'll make the transition. But, of course, you also have your research papers to be working on, folks. And if you're going to ask, hey, can we bring you a copy of your research paper, my research paper before you look over it? you better bring it today because I'm not looking at anything after today. You better bring a copy, not send it to me because I'm not going to go online to do it. So you better bring a copy. Yes, Mr. Turner.
The research paper and the sheet you just gave us, those are the last two essays we have.
Last two essays. Unless you want to do the optional essay.
Thank you so much.
There's an optional essay. It's posted up at Blackboard too. You have to analyze the poems of Emily Dickinson. Okay? So, all right. Any question about anything else? No questions? Chief? Does anybody have any hesitation, reservations, or questions about how to use the library resources for your research paper? Did this help today? Okay. I know somebody had a question about how to use it, so I want to make sure I address that. You're good. Okay. All right. Well then, see you guys later.